We welcome on a very special guest. It's the Orange Bowl winning Texas A&M offensive coordinator from 2018 to 2022. It's Coach Darrell Dickey. Coach, we're so excited to have you join us tonight. How you doing?
Well, I'm really excited to be here. I'm doing great. After I left A&M, I had a short stint at Georgia, and my family is stayed back here in Bryan College Station. And after 1 year, even though I loved it at Georgia, I said I just want to get back and kind of help them out. My daughter's got a business that I'm helping her with, and so just being a fan for right now and seeing what the future holds. But really excited that you would have me on here, and look forward to sharing some of my thoughts with you guys.
Who has the better food, College Station or Georgia?
There's great food at both places. I think the biggest difference is in Georgia, they gear for your barbecue. They're more pork oriented, and here it's a lot more beef, even though you can get some good beef here. But I think Bryan College Station's got a bunch of fantastic places to eat. I don't think Athens is quite as big or has quite as many different places. So since I'm on the air here, I'm going to go ahead and say, obviously, Bryan College Station's much better.
There you go. So you mentioned you're now kind of transitioning into becoming a fan. What do you think's more stressful, being a fan or a coach?
Well, obviously, when your paycheck is riding on the line, it's a lot more stressful. But I tell you what's crazy is it's when you're a fan, it's like you're watching a game and you feel like you're helpless to do anything as a former coach. It's like you sit there and say, I wish I could tell somebody that they're doing this or doing that. That is just human nature, I think. And I think the Aggies are in great hands with their coaching staff, and they're doing the right things. But that's the one thing I've noticed about being a fan. And I see where people sit up in the stands and go, well, why did we do this? Or why are we doing that? I've caught on to this fan stuff very quickly, second guess all the decisions and get frustrated with the team. But I will be very honest, I was really impressed about what I saw Saturday night. And I think they've got the ingredients for a great season this year.
Yeah,
That's what.
definitely.
Go ahead, Jack.
Sorry, I think we're having some buffering issues, but we sure hope so. We're definitely going to talk about this current Aggie team soon, but we wanted to talk about your entire career and trajectory first, and kind of give the listeners kind of an overview of what you've done. So I know you started your coaching career at A&M. You spent a little bit of time playing quarterback in the NFL. You had some stops along the way, including UNT.
A
You
lot of
spent some
stops.
time.
My wife will tell you way too many.
Yeah, it's got a military family, but that's the football coach
Yeah, very
mentality,
much
I would
like
think.
that. And preachers.
Yeah, there you go. Uh, we've got your time obviously at A&M, but before that, you spent some time at Memphis, right?
Yes. Actually, I began my coaching career here in 1985 with Jackie Sherrill was the head coach. R.C. Slocum was the defensive coordinator. Curly Hallman was the defensive back coach. And, a lot of those people have really helped me along the way in my coaching. 85 was the year that, Coach Sherrill was kind of make or break year, and actually and he made it really well because I was a graduate assistant at the time, which nowadays they refer to them as analysts or consultants, so to speak. But we won 10 games. We won the first Southwest Conference championship in 19 years, and we beat Auburn and Bo Jackson in the Cotton Bowl in a great day. And one of my little things that I can tout about myself, I'm undefeated as an Aggie in 4 bowl games. We won the Cotton Bowl that year. We won the Gator Bowl our first year here when Travion Williams went crazy rushing against NC State. We won the Texas Bowl against Oklahoma State our second year, and then we won the Orange Bowl and finished third in the nation against North Carolina. And I've been told we ended up third in the nation after the bowls, and I've been told that was the highest ranking that Texas A&M ever finished with since their national championship season. Texas A&M's been very good to me, and I've had a lot of great times here. I moved
So
around
that
after that. Shortly after that, I went to Memphis, where I met my wife. And we stayed there for 4 years. And then I went back there later in my career and was there 6 years. And so I spent 10 total years there. And then I've had some other short stops. I was in the SEC at LSU and Mississippi State. I was the head coach at the University of North Texas in Denton, Texas. And we had at one point the longest conference winning streak in the country at 26 straight conference games. And we went to 4 consecutive bowls and won 4 consecutive conference championships. And then we hit a little bad spin, and 2 years later, I was let go and then got back to being an assistant, which I really enjoyed both of those things. But I've traveled around quite a bit and had a lot of fun coaching. Haven't ruled it out completely if I may jump back in some kind of capacity. But right now, I'm just here in College Station enjoying the Aggies and traveling around to see a few games here and there and just staying up with college football. Boy, it's changed a lot since I started.
And I mean, perfect. It has changed a lot. That was actually a perfect segue. But so you brought up those bowl games from the 80s, specifically the 86 Cotton Bowl.
Yes.
That was against Bo Jackson, right?
Yes, it was Bo Jackson. And interestingly enough, I know the younger people like you guys remember Kyler Murray playing here. Well, our quarterback was his dad, Kevin Murray. And he was a
we
great
did know about
college
that.
football player. I mean, I think he won 2 or 3 championships here and had a really serious ankle injury that kept him from maybe going on to the NFL. Those teams that Coach Sherrill put together were loaded. I mean, we had some of the best all-time Aggies. We had a guy named Rod Bernstein that could play tailback, tight end, or wide receiver. All 3 of our running backs, we were a one-back team, but we played 3 guys, and all 3 of them were drafted in the top 3 rounds of the NFL draft. Keith Woodside, Anthony Toney, and Roger Vick, and they were great players. And, we had some unbelievable defensive players. A kid named Domingo Bryant was Southwest Conference Defensive Player of the Year. And, the famous thing about that game was the goal line stand against Bo Jackson, where he had, I think, 2 plays from the 1-yard line, and the wrecking crew, Coach Slocum was the defensive coordinator. They stuffed him, I think, twice in a row. And that was a big difference in the game.
I mean, it's even cooler now, since especially our generation, the younger generation, looks at Bo Jackson like a legend. And so it's cool that they actually defeated the legend in a way. But from there, excuse me, my kid is yelling. But from there, Jackie Sherrill always kept a loaded offense. We were absolutely loaded, as you said. What has changed, offensively speaking, from then to now in terms of how the offenses are considered loaded?
Yeah, I think that the biggest difference is style of play. We were one of the teams early on in that 85. We were one of the teams, ran a 1-back offense, and we would get in some 2-back stuff, but we had a very physical running game. And then we had a really advanced drop back passing game, and along with it, some play actions with some running back and wide receiver screens and things like that. So that was kind of the style of play of the day. Is even though we were 1-back, we weren't always really spread out, and we got in a lot of 2-back stuff. So that's kind of how football was played. And then, as you know, a guy named Mike Leach came along, and he had a huge impact on the game of football, the air raid, so to speak. And I think he came along right after the run and shoot, and the run and shoots kind of maybe fizzled just a little bit, but the air raid has stayed a major part of college football. You watched TCU the other night, and they just destroyed North Carolina and did a nice job offensively. The whole theory there is spread people out and make them defend the entire field. And if you do get them spread out, then you ought to be able to run the ball quite effectively. And, that's where they had North Carolina back on their heels, is because they were able to do both. So to me, the biggest change is people still want to run a balanced offense, but I think the offenses nowadays you see a lot more 4 wide receivers or flex tight ends. You see a lot more empty sets, so to speak, and the passing game is a high priority, but the teams that win can run the ball still. And So that's why I'm really excited about Texas A&M this year. Is I was thoroughly impressed with their wide receiver group the other night, and I know that was maybe a question mark. It has been a little bit in the past few years. I know they've got a loaded backfield of runners, and they've got a veteran offensive line. But, Texas San Antonio, it seemed to me, was trying to load the box for the running game. And so the Aggies were able to take advantage of some things through the air. And so that they'll build on that. I know Colin Klein is a brilliant mind, and he's got a balanced attack that just, throw the perimeter screens, which they utilized a bunch the other night, the quick passing game to get the ball to some playmakers that can go do something with it after the catch. So, that's probably the biggest change I've seen. And it looks like Texas A&M this year has a chance to be very versatile on offense. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They've got a quarterback. They didn't choose to run him a whole lot the other night, but I do think that, from what I saw last year, he's got the ability to make plays with his feet. And then I think down the road, they're going to need to just make sure they can play action and throw the ball over the defense's head, depending on how they're getting defended. So again, back to your original question, I think football is still, it used to be a lot more run oriented when I played and was early coaching. Now it's even money. But even back then, if you couldn't throw the ball a little, you struggled. Now it's you throw the ball and you do well. You've got to be able to run the ball some to be able to score some points and take advantage of what the defense is doing. So even though the style of play is a tad different, the thought process of having a balanced offense that can attack you in a lot of ways, especially when you add in the quarterback run game, it's nightmares to defend for defensive coaches.
Yeah, you made some good points, and I agree with you. It's been interesting. I feel like the last few years, or at least maybe the last decade, football tried to get away from the run, tried to get away from physicality in general, and we have found our way kind of going back towards that and understanding that the toughness aspect and the physical aspect and the running the ball down someone's throat aspect of the game is never going to go away. It's going to be important forever, and you've got to stop the run. You've got to be able to run the ball to be successful.
There's no doubt about that. And I talked to Dana Holgerson, who's a good friend, who's now at Nebraska, and he was an air raid assistant for Mike Leach at Texas Tech before he kind of branched out on his own. Early on in their situation, they were four wides most of the time and spread people out. But he even was telling me that he had gone back to playing with, a lot of people call it an H-back, which is a kind of a part wide receiver, part offensive lineman, part fullback, whatever you want to call it, and utilizing those guys, in the tackle box area as an extra blocker, as an extra pass protector, or, you have them in there blocking and you fake a running play. And then all of a sudden, like what happened with Theo on the very last play or the second to last touchdown, I think the other night, he comes back like he's going to block and then slips in the flat and he's wide open. So I think the emergence of that player still gives you a two-back type of attack. And it's good to just see that A&M's got the tools to be multiple personnel wise. But you're exactly right. The teams that win every year, Michigan 2 years ago, the national champions, they ran the ball all over Washington.
Jim Harbaugh.
So those are the teams that usually come out on top. Ohio State last year, when they won it, they had a very balanced offensive attack. They got the good running game and the great receivers, and the quarterback was a heck of a player. So, it's just, that's the best of all the worlds, is to be balanced on offense and then have a few other things you can do well.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to say that your team is multiple, and it's another thing to actually do it and be able to run the ball on people and also have the weapons to run that play action successfully. And you have the aspect of Marcel specifically for this A&M team where he can run the ball. So it does feel like this team can be extremely multiple, even across the roster itself. You've got a running back room that seems to be loaded top to bottom. You've got 5 guys that probably can get carries every game. And then on top of the receivers that we saw kind of showcase against UTSA, granted, it's a mid-major game, but those guys looked like the most talented receivers we've seen on the outside since, I want to say maybe Mike Evans, but I don't know if we go that far at A&M.
Well, I don't know of that comparison either, but I will say this, probably watching the game, I was like, wow, they got some receivers that can play. And I knew that was maybe a question mark coming in because the line is a veteran line. In fact, there was a few guys, there's a plane that were here when I was here. Same thing in the backfield. Le'Veon Moss was recruited when I was here, Amari Daniels, and I visited with EJ on a recruiting trip. I know he went to Stanford, then came back, but they've got some very, very capable, explosive running backs. And I kept hearing that they'd got some guys in the transfer portal, but they were, they were unknown at receiver. And I can tell you, I was extremely impressed. Number one, they got great separation. They ran really nice, crisp. Number two, when they caught the ball, they made things happen after the catch. And I tell you, the third thing that was really impressive, I watched them block. They blocked on the perimeter. And if they can do that, that's tough to stop, is that perimeter screen game. I worked with the Holman Wiggins at the University of Memphis, the wide receiver coach. And I personally think he's the best receiver coach in college football and one of the best coaches I've ever worked with, because he gets his players he gets the best out of their ability. And I can tell you, just from being around him, one of the things he tells them, I'm going to look just as hard at what you're doing without the ball as what you're doing with the ball. Yeah, when we throw you the ball, we expect you to make plays, but you got to do your job when you don't have the ball to help us be successful. And there was a running back, wide receiver, kind of a swing screen that the two guys on the perimeter just dominated their guys, and it resulted in a touchdown. And I saw that throughout the game. So they got some playmakers out there, and they've got some guys that can hold up in the running game and the blocking part of it. So I think that's a position that, at least from my perspective, some people were saying it might have been a little unknown coming in, but after seeing them, I thought, well, they can make plays, and they can do things with the ball after they get it.
It's kind of the beauty of the transfer portal. We're getting guys in the locker room that we probably wouldn't have had a chance at years ago, which it's a gift and a curse because there's in and out. But anyways, we wanted to get back to, you mentioned Colin Klein. It sounds like you think very highly of him. Tom Ag hates Colin Klein, thinks he's the worst offensive coordinator we've ever had. He's sitting in your booth. He's having to call the plays. He's having to manage the offense. From your perspective, having been in his seat, what do you think can make him ultimately successful at A&M, and what is promising so far from what you've seen?
Well,
I do not hate Colin Klein.
knowing him a little bit, we both played at Kansas State. He won a lot of games there. I didn't. But, he was trained by one of the greatest coaches of all time, Bill Snyder, who was just an offensive genius and, to be honest, a football genius. The thing is, though, Colin, he was the running game at Kansas State when he played. I mean, he might carry the ball 25, 30 times a game. And I think as a coach, from what I've seen, is that he wants that balance. He wants to run the ball with a great running back, spread the ball around to tight ends, wide receivers, even throw the ball to backs out of the backfield, and then pick and choose his times to run the ball. It was a little similar to what we did with Kellen Mond. Some of Kellen Mond's biggest plays at Texas A&M were quarterback run plays. We didn't do them a lot. And I've always felt that's the best philosophy because, you don't want your quarterback getting beat up. You don't want him getting hurt. And a lot of ours were designed for him to pull the ball when it was a real good situation to pull the ball, like there wasn't any defenders out there and he could run for a while before he got approached by a tackler and then either slide, get down, get out of bounds, whatever. And, Kellen ran the ball for us a lot and missed one play in his whole career, and it wasn't a quarterback run. He scrambled against Clemson the first year, and when he was going to go down, he broke out of the pocket and he fell on the ball and knocked the wind out of him. And then that's the only play he ever missed from some kind of injury. And so,
I remember that.
That's always a concern when your quarterback's running a lot. So, but I think Colin's got a great mind, and I think he knows football. I mean, if you play for Bill Snyder, you're going to know the game. I mean, you're going to know what everybody's doing, what you're doing, why you're doing this. They check a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage. So he's got a great mind. I think his philosophy is probably I'm going to hang my running game hat on my running backs and just pick and choose just some times for my quarterback to be involved in the running game and let him be a passer and a distributor of the ball. And, the other night, game 1, they executed, I thought, at a very high level, especially
I
in the
agree.
passing game. There's a lot of game 1s where you see guys lining up wrong, guys running an out route when they're supposed to be running an in route. The receiver's open and the ball hits at their feet. But I thought the execution was at a high level for game 1. I also thought, you didn't have a lot of silly substitution penalties or delay of games, or I saw 5 games on TV Saturday, and in a couple of them, there was I counted at least 4 or 5 times when the offense came off the sideline, came out onto the field, and got a delay of game penalty. And that's just almost, an unforgivable sin. And and didn't show any of that. They seemed like they were very, very well prepared, and they executed what they were trying to do.
Real
Loved what
quick,
I saw
just
from
based on like the play calling and just us not getting any penalties and everything looked crisp. How scripted is the first drive of a game, or is it just like a in the field moment?
Well, everybody's a little different. When we were here, we scripted the first 15 plays of the game. Now, that's all based on if the down and distance stays on track, so to speak. If you get 4 yards on first down and it's 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, 2nd and somewhere in there, you're pretty much on schedule. You know what I'm saying? If you have a 2nd and 10, you might not stick to that script. You might, you might think, well, instead of running that play, just because it's second on the list, we got a little bit more yards to pick up here. And especially if you get into third down, third down is its own little world right there. And even though you've got scripted plays, it's pretty much for what we call normal down and distance. 1st and 10, 2nd and 4, 5, or 6, even your third down plays. If you're 2nd and 8 or 10, you're not really concerned with having to get all of the yards there. You want to get in what we call a manageable third down, which, and that's now some of the spread teams and the air raid teams, they're trying to, pick up lots of yards every play. And in our script, we were trying to throw a bunch of different formations, a bunch of wrinkles at a defense that they hadn't seen, run a little tempo at them to get them off balance a little bit. And we always had a shot play or two where, if we get going and we hit a couple of first downs, we're going to take a shot deep and just make sure they're not, crowding the line of scrimmage and things like that. But everybody's a little different on that. I do think just about everybody's scripts plays, and then how they handle it throughout the course of that script is, changes depending on the staff. Now, you look at the game the other night, TCU and North Carolina, it looked like North Carolina with their first set of scripts was going to run TCU out of the stadium. And then all of a sudden they just couldn't do anything. And then TCU turned around and ran them out of the stadium. So it was, it's good for me to sit up and watch how people are attacking defenses and how they're handling situations. And I think Colin's done a great job calling plays. They're not all going to work. And, sometimes, you, even as a play caller, you're up there thinking, I wish I had that one back. And I know I did that a lot. I mean, when I was a play caller, I was, sometimes it would just be getting out of my mouth and I would think, I'm not sure that's what I wanted to do. And then we'd either go with it or we'd make a late change. But most of the time you're pretty well thought into whatever the situation is, this is what I'm going to run. But you have to have that element of surprise because the defensive coordinator looks at your tendencies and he goes, well, in this situation, this is what he likes to do. So, there's that little chess game where you're playing chess with the defensive coordinator saying he thinks I'm going to do this, but I need to do that instead. Keeping the defense, off balance is huge. But the script is definitely a major part of football.
I mean, I figured, especially with old Chapel Bill, that was definitely scripted, and you could tell.
We were blowing off the ball for the entire first drive.
Yeah.
I'm also a North Carolina fan.
Me too.
Really?
That's where I wanted to go to college.
Oh, same. Well, I got my master's there, and I grew up a Tar Heel fan. So
I was committed there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Did you grow up
Interesting
there?
story. My dad was the defensive coordinator for a man named Bill Dooley,
Okay.
and they went from the worst defense in the nation before he got there to the best defense in the nation. And he got a lot of credit, but he would always
LT.
tell me I did a pretty good job. But we had this guy named Lawrence Taylor that played for us
Yeah.
and made and he was actually, I was a junior in high school when he was a senior in high school. And I actually helped recruit him a little bit when he came to visit Chapel Hill. So
Wow.
those were some fun times. I was going to go to school there because I went to ninth through 12th grade in Chapel Hill. I committed to the Tar Heels, but right after football season, my dad got the head coaching job at Kansas State. You guys are too young to know how poor Kansas State was back in those days before Bill Snyder. And I said, I'm not going there. And then 3 or 4 weeks before signing day, Coach Dooley left North Carolina to go to Virginia Tech. And I was like, well, I don't know anybody at Virginia Tech either. So I ended up at Kansas State, and I guess it all worked out. But yes, I love the Tar Heels.
All right, we'll talk Tar Heel football off the record
Off the
here.
record. You can just edit all that out if you want to.
No, we'll keep it. We'll keep it.
All good. But coming back to staying ahead of schedule. All right, so we're past the first 15 plays. How much of an asset is Marcel to Cullen Klein? Because you got running the ball, he could throw
Yes.
the ball. Where is the limitations with Marcel and Cullen Klein calling play?
I don't know that there are any. I'm not out there every day at practice to see maybe he struggles with this or maybe he struggles with that. I do know this. What he's done up to this point in his career by running the quarterback run plays like he did against LSU last year, it's in every defensive coordinator's mind. What are we going to do if he pulls the ball and comes out on the corner running, or pulls the ball and runs up the middle and everybody's chasing the running back? So they have to plan for that. I do think watching him the other night, he looked so much more comfortable in the pocket with his decision making.
He did.
Throwing the quick passing game, getting the ball out of his hands quickly. I do think at some point over the course of the year, there's going to be some DBs that are going to come up and tighten up and challenge that, and they're going to need to be able to complete some balls deep. And I saw him do it last year, so
Yeah.
I don't think that's an issue. It's just they didn't choose to do it quite as much the other night. So I don't know that I see any limitations or any things that you can't do with Marcel. He makes a lot of great throws. My concern would be, how much do we want to actually run him? He's not a real big guy,
Right.
but it's crazy. Some of those guys they're slippery and people never get a real good shot on them. And so, and I think though that just knowing Kellen and what he wants, knowing Colin and knowing what he wants to do, or having an idea, he's gonna have that threat of that quarterback run game there just to keep defenses from doing all kinds of crazy stuff against him.
Yeah, and it seems like, and you can tell me from your perspective, in games like this, like the first games, the quote cupcake games, it felt like we were trying to exhibit Marcel more as a pocket passer in that game. Quick game, get it out to the perimeter on the screens, get the ball out of his hands as quick as possible, and we're also not doing any read option, we're not doing any speed option, nothing like that. Do you think that's more of just because of the opponent dictating that? We don't want to tip our hand to Notre Dame. We're probably not going to this week either. And also, we don't want to risk Marcel running the ball in a game like this.
I can't say exactly what their thinking was, but I would guess you're pretty spot on. We always felt like, hey, let's use the quarterback run game if we really need it, depending on how the flow of the game is going. The last touchdown was a speed option, if I remember correctly. And, that's a real good short yardage type of deal, because last year I think the Aggies had some troubles on some 4th and 1s and things like that when they tried to run it up the middle. And just the threat of them saying, okay, you're going to load up the inside gaps, we're going to take the ball out on the corner and pitch it. And that's a play that Colin ran a lot when he was in college. And so, I think the speed option, most of the time, the quarterback's able to get it pitched pretty quick and not take any hits. But like the plays you're talking about, the zone read, the power read, and those kind of things where he truly becomes a runner. I don't know if they were holding them back. I would bet they're practicing them and they have them ready. And it's just, What do we need to do to move the ball? And UTSA was crowding the line of scrimmage, but they looked like they were playing mostly a little bit of soft coverage on the back end. And so that was why there was so many, just get the ball to the receivers and let them go, and let them get out there and block for each other and create some, one-on-one situations and make them tackle us in space, which to me was a really good plan.
Do you think it's any cause for concern? Because it's understandable that they would stack the box against us, especially with our talent in the running back room and the type of football that we want to play. But at the same time, it felt like our offensive line wasn't getting a lot of push in the run game on Saturday. It felt that way. We weren't getting chunk runs. We weren't really successful pushing them off the ball. Is that a cause for concern, or do you think that's just scheme related?
Well, as a coach, as a former coach, you're almost concerned with everything. I'm sure they went in and said, what were the areas that we didn't, even though they scored, I think 42 points and probably could have scored some more. You go in as a coach and say, okay, what plays did they get us on? Where did we have some breakdowns, or where did we not get done what we needed to get done? They call it self-scouting. You analyze, okay, what plays didn't work? And you look at those and try to find out, okay, do we have a personnel problem here? Did we not have a great play here? Did the running back miss the cut? I mean, there's all kinds of things you can look at as to why this happened and it was good, and why this didn't happen and it wasn't good. But that's what the coaches do from Sunday to up till parts of Monday, is analyze themselves. So I would not be real concerned with the running game or the lack thereof. And I'm a running game guy. I believe you have to be able to run the ball. I think they did some things to help their running game the other day with throwing the stuff out on the perimeter. And if you can do that, the defensive coordinator's got a nightmare to think about, is if I spread out with them, now the creases are going to be there. If I don't, they're going to throw it out here. And again, we get back to a balanced attack. And that's what I think they can do. And it looks like the quarterback's very capable of doing it.
I bet you could self-scout yourself into a big rabbit hole, big black hole for a big game.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry, I didn't. You were saying what now?
I was saying, I bet you could self-scout yourself into just like a black hole before a big game. Just be terrified of your own work.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things is this, you look at it, and if something's not successful, you say, was this something that we can actually do if we practice a little more or do it a little better, and again, you got to self-scout's good, but what you're talking about, I think, is overanalyzing, and we're all guilty of that. I've been a part of some coaching staffs where I was the offensive coordinator or the head coach, and at 7:00 at night, we had a great game plan and we were going to score a bunch of points. And by about 9:30 or 10, we didn't think we could get out of the huddle. So, at some point you got to say, this is what we're going to do and let's roll with it.
yeah, definitely. So, I mean, from that game, we can move on from that game. I was really excited with what I saw, obviously with the receivers, but Marcel looked confident. He looked decisive. He looked crisp, and his arm, I mean, the accuracy showed. I know he missed that deep ball, but with the wind and everything, I'm not really, it's a deep ball. So we'll move on from that. I wanted to kind of just get into a little bit from that 2020 year in particular, and kind of the years under Jimbo Fisher. So you were on the other side of the booth from Mike Elko. He was defensive coordinator while you were there. What was he like as a defensive coordinator? Did you ever think he was going to find this much success as a head coach, or maybe even end up being the guy for the Aggies one day?
Well, just been working with him for 4 years, and then he left for Duke. And I think he's a brilliant football coach. He knows the game. He knows how to do things that can take away what an offense is doing without leaving his guys vulnerable. Everybody just thinks, oh, well, if I'm struggling, I'm just going to bring the house and blitz everybody. He does some things, and being in the press box, I used to hear him, is he will stunt. He will line up in a look sometimes, at least he used to. He'll line up in a look that almost baits the offense to run a certain play. And then when they run that play, he's moving his guys into the best defense to stop that play. And that's a lot of knowing the defense, analyzing what they're doing, and then, just putting your players in a chance to be very, very successful. And that's what he did when we were here. So, how he'll do as a head coach, it sounds like he's got a really good plan. It sounds like the players are buying in. I know it's been talked about, but one of the most impressive things I saw the other night, and again, this comes from buy-in. When your upper level talented guys will go play on special teams, like E.J. Smith, the play he made on the long punt return, that says a lot about your program and what your players are doing. Here's a kid that was highly recruited. He's in a very, very crowded running back room. I mean, there's 4 tailbacks there that you could probably play one of them and be fine, but they're letting them all kind of play a little bit, which is, I think, healthy. It's good. Competition's always good. And, to go ahead and say, well, I was a highly recruited guy, but I'm not so good that I can't go contribute to the team on special teams. I mean, says a lot about what they're trying to do. I mean, a kid blocked 3 people on one play, and that's not an exaggeration. And, it wasn't just him. There wasn't maybe any plays quite as good as that, but I saw their wide receivers out there that
On
are
the screen
guys that
passers.
are, most time those guys just want to know how many touches they're getting so they can go renegotiate their contracts or whatever that's called these days. But I mean, guys were out there and what I refer to as playing without the ball. And I mean, there were guys that got locked up on people and ran them out of bounds, put them on the ground, and that helps your football team. And that means that your players believe in what you're doing. And I have a feeling that it's probably being demanded as well. If you're going to play out here on offense and defense, you're going to also contribute on special teams if we need you. And so, that was impressive to me watching that. I'm going back 2020. What were you asking about there? I think I'm going to got off track.
No, we were just talking about Mike Elko, but
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Back to Coach
Reminiscent.
Elko, hell, the main guy. Personally, I think he's got a lot of football knowledge. He's good with the kids. I mean, even when he was an assistant here, he had a good rapport with the guys on the team. He'd come up and talk to Kellen before games and just, he's a team guy. I think his plan is to put the players in the best position possible. He does a very good job of it. I'm sure he's probably in there worried about a couple of the runs that UTSA was able to make. But I will tell you from watching it, UTSA, knowing them, they've got a pretty good offensive line. And that tailback that they got out of the portal, Henry, will play in the NFL one day. I mean, he is a really good running back. And that's one of the things that, I coached at North Texas, and I used to think, wow, if that stuff was going on now, if you could just transfer and be immediately, we could go get guys and say, hey, come in here this year and you'll start. But, you used to have to sit out a year. Well, now guys that are sitting around and not playing and they're getting to their junior and senior year, they're going to jump and go somewhere that they can get on the field. And that's probably what's going on there. And his long run, the guy made a great cut there. York was actually in position, but when the back cut behind the double team block, York was already up there. And as he stepped with the cut, he got picked off by the 2 blockers and the guy being blocked, which, kind of happens.
Quick question on that play specifically. Where should the safety be lined up in that case? Where would the safety be in that case? Or was he already getting blocked in that case?
I couldn't see the safety in that. I thought that York was in position and was going to make the play for no gain, but the guy made a really good cut. It's a hard cut because he waited till he got up in the line, and it looked like our linebacker had already committed to fill his gap, which is what he's supposed to do. And the running back made kind of a little jump cut, which took him from one gap to behind the other guys, and then he got vertical, and that's really tough to defend. I didn't see the safety's alignment, but, run defense is a really, how do you say? It's like anything else. guys got to play together a bunch, and you got a lot of new guys out there. So I just said what I said, but I don't know exactly if that was the breakdown. I just know what I thought I saw, but I think they'll be fine defensively. They've got good players. I do think just watching them, they're going to be able to rush the passer really well because they've got some athletic guys, more athletic guys.
Definitely. Well, Coach, this has been awesome. We have one more question, then we're going to get into rapid fire, but we would
Oh,
love
boy.
to, yeah, we'd love to talk Aggie ball with you anytime. You're always welcome. So, specifically about the Jimbo Fisher era, obviously, Jimbo was known. He always had all the pieces of paper he was flipping through, calling plays. You guys worked in tandem to run that offense. He was an offensive style head coach. What was the dynamic of the way that you guys worked together, and how did it work on game day and practice, and just kind of work through that with us?
Well, first of all, a lot of people, Jim, whenever a coach gets let go, he gets beat up. And a lot of people talked about his offense was ancient, and I don't agree with that. It was a philosophy that, when things aren't going good, the fan just says, well, throw the ball every down then. And I don't agree with that. I think, people don't realize, the first year here, Travion Williams led the league in rushing. And he, we played NC State, and they were the 4th ranked rushing defense in the nation in the Gator Bowl, and we rushed for 414 yards. So we came in and established what Jimbo's always hung his hat on, was a pretty salty running game. Now, then after year 1, we lost some good players. Travion was one, a guy named Eric McCoy was the other. So, but I do think working with Jimbo, he's a great coach. He knows football. He knows offensive football. I was on the headphones with him, and he was the play caller. I mean, and he did and personally thought he did a great job. Every once in a while, he would pull something off script. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
90% of the time it worked. He would see something that maybe not everybody else saw, but our style of play was, when things weren't going great, it gets criticized. If you're a running offense, I don't care, people won 1,000 games running the wishbone, but anytime they started losing, everybody wanted to fire the coach and let's quit running this antiquated offense or whatever it's called. But, I was on the headphones with him. I would relay a lot of information, and a lot of it was, here's what they're playing. Here's what they're doing. The safety's cheating. We talked about this being a good play in this situation. And every once in a while, he'd just say, you got anything you really like here? Or what do you think about this? Or give me a play. And I mean, I would tell him the best of my knowledge, what I thought. And there would be times he'd say, yeah, I like it. Let's go. Let's run that. Or there'd be times he said, nah, I don't like that right here. He'd call something else. It didn't bother me. In fact, I was encouraging when I said, hey, if I make a suggestion, don't run it because I said it. If you're the play caller, you got to be able to sleep with it at night. So I thought it was a very good relationship. We kind of went in a little different direction after the 3rd season, and in my opinion, and I understand the reasons. That 4th year, Haynes King was our starting quarterback, and we kept a lot of the quarterback run game stuff in our offense. Well, he broke his leg the 2nd game of the season on a quarterback run play. And
Colorado game,
Colorado game. And that hurt us. And I think from that point, we were a little leery of just getting our quarterbacks hurt. Unfortunately, they got hurt in the pocket. Max Johnson came in and played and got his thumb broken, I think, against Mississippi State on a blitz. And then Wigman came in at the end of that year. No. Year 4 was Calzada. Calzada came in actually after Haynes broke his leg, and I'll tell him if he was sitting here, he played awful against Arkansas. I mean, awful. But then from that point on, he kind of played good enough to win most of the games we were in. We lost to Mississippi State, but we couldn't stop them, and we dropped a bunch of passes. And then everybody remembers what he did against Alabama. I know my press box story I'll tell you is when we were playing Alabama and he's out there lighting them up, I asked who stole Calzada's jersey and is out there playing him, because I don't recognize this. But he was on fire that night. And then, went up to Missouri the next week and played well. And then we lost a tough game to Ole Miss. And to be honest, the last game of the season against LSU, he took us down to score. He played good in that game. He took us down and we scored.
Yeah.
late in the game. And then we had 3 disastrous things happen to us, and they beat us on the last play of the game. So it's, but through all that, I felt like, after the 3rd year, we were kind of heading in the right direction. And, then some things happen. You get your quarterback hurt, and nobody wants to hear any of this stuff. But for us, it's reality. And Zach was not known as a great runner, and we didn't have another quarterback. Eli Stowers had come in and was injured as well. And we had a kid named Blake Boast was the backup, and he was a true freshman.
Yeah.
So we're over the top thinking we can't get this guy hit. And Zach hurt his knee that year and his shoulder, but he hung in there for us to be there. So, things happen. But my relationship with Jimbo, my relationship was great with Jimbo up until the day he fired me. But that's kind of how football works. I mean, I understand the business. I've been around it, and had a great time here, and have a lot of respect for him. But as a coach, you just move on and you go do things.
One more question I feel lucky enough to be able to ask you, just off all that stuff that we just talked about. I feel like our listeners are going to appreciate this one. What were the conversations with Zach Calzada about just maybe like toning it down just a bit? You don't have to throw 100 miles per hour to the running back in the backfield. Maybe like, let's just take a little bit off. Let's take 10 miles per hour off this one. Like, was that a conversation for you guys? Like kind of trying to get him to like have a little bit.
It was kind of an ongoing conversation the whole time. Now, I will tell you this. When he's out there in practice, when he came here for his camp, I mean, he was the best natural thrower of the ball I had seen in a long time. The only guy that came to camp here that was more impressive was Cam Ward. And Cam Ward was really raw and just overpowering. But he had some, he played no single wing offense, and he had some developing to do, as you see he's done. But Zach, he could throw it through a brick wall, and he was really accurate. Now, you had to, and he's very intelligent, but he's a little bit of a hyper kid. And so if he'd get back there and the first or second read wasn't there, he had to learn to be comfortable in the pocket. I mean, the things that I still scratch my head, if it didn't materialize right away, if somebody wasn't open, he would do this thing where he just started backpedaling out of there and tried to backpedal around the offensive tackle. Zach, that's where he's blocking him to. He's trying to push him out there. You have to step up in the pocket.
Yeah.
And then I think when he had somebody open, he wanted so bad to get it there that he got it there in a real hurry. So, he played through that year, and to be honest, I saw steady improvement. And again, the highlight of it for him for us was the Alabama win, because he was lights out. But I think he learned how to prepare better for the game. I think he thought he was just going to go out there and it was going to be all on this great arm, and all he had to do was just make this unbelievable throw. And you still got to process the play, read the coverage. And when he got comfortable doing that, I think he became a much better quarterback. I watched him play last week, and I shot him a text. I don't know if you guys saw the game, but they ran a zone read, and he should have handed the ball off, but he pulled it, and he got tackled for a safety. And I sent him a little text. I said, read the blitzer and hand it off.
Still
You're not going to outrun the guy's blitzing for you. But, everybody makes mistakes. Yeah. And I think we had a good enough relationship that we could, kid around about it a little bit.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
I know I tell you what's amazing about the strength of the Aggies. Zach Calzada, things didn't work out for him here, and he left. But his sister came here and played soccer.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, and a lot of times when a guy leaves, they tell everybody in their family, you don't want to go there. I hate that place. It didn't work out. Eli Stowers, it didn't work out for him here either. And his sister's starting on the volleyball team right now, and they're really good. So I think the guys left here with good feelings about Texas A&M. I don't know if you've noticed, but Eli Stowers is the first team All-American tight end at Vanderbilt.
Andy, yeah.
And will probably be drafted in the top 2 rounds next year. When I went to Georgia, I was there the last year that Brock Bowers played. And you
Wow.
talk about phenomenal. The
Crazy.
speed of a wide receiver, best hands I've ever been around, jumping ability, unbelievable catches, hard worker. And, Eli's in that mold. I'm not going to say he's Brock Bowers just yet because he's only been a tight end for 2 years, but I mean, a great athlete, great character. So, I think A&M's done a good job bringing a lot of guys in. They just need to keep them all around and continue to build their team.
Did you guys see that in Eli, like, is playing another position
We
early?
did.
Yeah.
We did. In high school, I think he was a second or third team All-State basketball player. After football season, he just went over to track and high jump like over 7 feet. I mean, just with no practice, with no warm ups, he's just a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, watching a kid's high school tape, do you know immediately, like, oh, this guy's got it, or like, it's more of a risk on this guy? Like, 5-star recruit, they both play Texas 6A. There's no difference between that. Can you tell the difference between if he's got it or if he doesn't have it from just a high school tape?
You can see the athletic ability, the throwing stuff. What you can't see on a tape is the look in their eye. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes that look in the eye is like, you see that kid from TCU the other night, Hoover?
Yeah.
He looked great.
I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it, but he's got it.
It's
Yeah.
that. It's that right there.
Some people call it swag. Some people
Clutch
call it
gene.
just that air about him. The great quarterbacks all have it, and you can't really see it on a tape. You got to go to the game. You go watch them practice basketball. You go to spring ball. You get them to camp. That's why getting to camp is so important in evaluation, is because you get to. Anaya Smith got offered a scholarship at Texas A&M because he came to camp and he was the most competitive guy on the field.
Dog. Absolute dog.
I mean, receiver, running back. We put him at corner, and I mean, it was like Coach Fisher looked at him and said, "We got this guy's playing for us." And I mean, his 40 time wasn't just off the charts. He wasn't the biggest guy, but if you see that look in their eye and their competitive nature, and that's when you see if they have it or not, in my opinion.
That's
Fair enough. Well, thank you so much for that extra question there, Coach. Now we're going to move into rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'll have to tell you this. When I transitioned from the huddle up, go to the line, look at the defense, get in the right play, and almost get a delay game penalty as a player, to sitting in the press box and calling plays and doing the same thing. Okay, how are they lined up? Is this a good play? Take your time. Let's make sure we're set. To my introduction to fast break football was Mike Norvell, the head coach at Florida State. He was a first-time head coach at Memphis, and I worked for him. Back then, it was, I don't care, get the play called. As soon as the ball's spotted, but in 6 seconds, we're snapping the ball. And I mean, it took me a while to get comfortable with that, because I even went and told him, I said, sometimes we run a play and it's not the best play against the defense. He said, it doesn't matter. They're not lined up. They're not set. They're not ready. And you snap it, and they may stunt into a bad play. They may have something, and we get a bad play, but then all of a sudden we're going to break one for 30 or 40 yards. And it's true, so that's the positive to that. So when you rapid fire me, it'll take me a couple of minutes to get settled in.
There's no
Might have
huddle.
to call timeout or two. Fire away.
All right. Fair enough. Best player you ever coached?
Patrick Cobbs.
I don't know
You
who
don't
that
know
is.
who he is, but he led the nation in rushing and scoring at North Texas. Patrick Cobbs and Tony Pollard. They're the same guy. Tony Pollard was at Memphis with us. He was a tailback and receiver, kind of like what we did with Anaya Smith here. He played in the backfield. He played in the slot. And when you do that, you can run fast tempo plays, and the defense doesn't get to substitute because you're not substituting.
Right.
So, And then he was the best special teams player I've ever been around. And and people know him. So that's who I would say is the best one. A kid named Patrick Cobbs did the same thing. He was a leading rusher in the nation. And we were playing Texas and Oklahoma and people like that back then at North Texas. And he played on every special team. And it kind of set the tone for our team. They're like going, this guy's our best running back and he's covering kickoffs. But he wanted to. He was on the punt team, the punt return team, and he wasn't the returner. If we wanted to block a punt, we put him up there in the line, and he blocked a punt, picked it up, ran it for a touchdown. And just, those are the guys that can do multiple things and will commit to doing the other things that are team oriented. But I've been fortunate enough to coach some great players. I don't know if you've ever heard of the tight end from LSU, David LaFleur. He was first-round draft choice for the Dallas Cowboys, played 5 years and hurt his back. He was like 6'8", 255, and ran a 4.7 40, and just a phenomenal player.
What about Devon A-Chain?
Love A-Chain. I would probably put him up there. I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to say A-Chain. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Again,
it's okay.
You hit me fast, and I started thinking way back deep. I do think Devon A-Chain turned the game around, not by himself, but made the most momentum swinging play I've ever seen in my career.
Bama kickoff return?
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, we were playing. We got off to a little bit of a lead, and Bama did what Bama does. They kind of came crawling back, and then we hung in there. And so it's late third quarter, and they blocked a punt for a touchdown.
We needed that.
And I'm in the press box and I'm looking at our sideline and I'm looking in the stands. And when they blocked that punt for a touchdown, it sucked the life out of our players. And to be quite honest, our fans, it was like, oh no, we played great. We did a nice job. And even Alabama, you could tell they thought, oh, it's over now. They'll lay down. When he ran that kickoff back, that place went crazy. The fans, our sideline, and I looked over on Alabama's sideline, and it was kind of like they had that doubt, and I'd never seen that before. It was kind of like, whoa, this isn't supposed to happen to us. And we still had a quarter to play, but I mean, the energy from that game, from that point forward, I was confident, and I'm usually not. I'm confident and I know our players are going to do well, but I was like, wow, I always think about what's the bad stuff that's going to happen.
Right.
All right, rapid fire me again. And
Sorry,
yes, you guys are correct. Devon A-Chain is in my top 5.
Okay, good. That's all we needed to hear.
I feel the same way, though. I'm always like very pessimistic going in.
You're not a coach.
I'm a fan now. He's a fan now, dude. He's, all right, Canes or Lanes?
I didn't hear you.
Canes or Lanes?
I'm a Canes guy.
Really?
Yes, love Canes.
Any reason particular?
I think it's the 3-piece, the 4-piece combo box, the 3-piece combo box. That's all I've ever ordered. And the other guy that does that's Haynes King. That's how we meshed a little bit. We were both big Canes guys. It's the box combo is what you call it. I think it's 3 pieces, a roll, and whatever. And I like Lanes, but Canes is more my go-to.
You might be the first Aggie that's come on and professed their love for Canes over Lanes. I'm kind of indifferent. I like them both.
I do too.
Yeah.
I mean, but that wasn't the question. Sorry. All right.
You're a Lanes guy?
I am huge Lanes guy. Lanes guy. Yeah. Yell leaders
I will turn either one of them down.
Okay. Fair enough. Same here, honestly.
And to be quite honest, I really like wings and more, but it's not considered what do you call it? Just a tender's place or whatever.
Chicken spot, yeah. More like a wing spot. Yeah. I feel that. All right, yell leaders or cheerleaders?
Cheerleaders. And I'm going to get beat up.
No, I love it.
I'm going to get beat up bad.
Bold.
Huh?
I said that's bold.
I know. Around here, you guys are going to try to get me fired again.
You're our biggest guest. We've tried to get all of our guests to admit the reality. Well, Billy Lucci said both, which kind of a cop-out answer, but I do respect it. We've got to get to regular cheerleaders and mascot. We can keep all of our traditions, but I was this weekend in particular, especially when the Oregon Duck mascot lost his head.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't we have the opportunity for our mascot to lose their head and run back into the locker? Like, I would love
Right.
that.
Oh, that is pretty good. All right. Favorite program not A&M you spent time with?
This is supposed to be rapid fire, right? I really enjoyed my time at LSU.
I think most people do.
Dang, you're gonna
I'm
go
getting
the
a lot of
yellow
people hating me
cheerleader
right now.
answer? Yeah, you're gonna go.
Canes, cheerleaders. So there'll be a for sale sign in my yard tomorrow.
It's just
All right.
part of it. I respect the honesty.
No, yeah, fair enough. Favorite play call?
Naked. That's and it's still the highest percentage completed pass in the NFL today.
So is
Are
it
You
you
know what I'm
allowed?
talking about, right?
Are you?
crossing?
Is it?
Just
I'm sorry?
bootleg?
Are you allowed to tell us what it is, or is it secret?
Well, no, it's not a secret. You
Just play
fake
action bootleg
you
crossing
fake a
route?
running play to one side or the other, and the quarterback, the play that Theo scored the touchdown on, that's a naked. And there's a whole lot of forms of them, but basically you're faking a running play to one side, and the quarterback's coming out the other side with a run pass option.
For the Gen Z audience, is that so? Yeah, it's the RPO there. Read option to the RPO.
Well, the RPO to me is more you have a chance to hand the ball off. A naked, you don't. It's a fake, and you're gonna fake it, and you're gonna come rolling back out. Whereas the RPOs, you ride it, and you may hand it, you might not, and if you pull it, you're gonna stay right there in the pocket and throw it. So maybe a naked's a form of it, but the ones I've ran, my thought of it is it's not a handoff. You're going to fake the ball to the tailback, and you're going to roll out to the side away from where he's going, and the quarterback's either going to throw it in the flat, throw a comeback, throw all kinds of different routes, but he's pretty much out there on his own.
So did you like that because it gave the quarterback a little bit of flexibility? And obviously it's kind of like you're calling it in rhythm for like schematically, right? Like you're like, okay, we feel like the defense is going to bite on this. And then our
Both.
quarterback's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both. When you run some of these running plays, if the defensive end is just crashing down in the line flat and making plays on your running back, the best cure for that is a naked. Fake that play, run around him, and then, because he's lost what we call contain. He's let the quarterback get outside the tackle area, and, now the quarterback has to know if the guy reads it and is upfield in his face, he might have to get rid of it in a hurry. But my career, I had a ton of success with that play. And it was usually because we had good running teams. Because whenever you run the ball, defense is going to do everything they can to stop that.
That makes sense. They're just going to be biting on the run the whole day. Tight end's going to be wide open. That makes sense. Next question in rapid fire. Why is Marcel better than Arch?
I think even just his experience last year, he's already been in a game. He's a little more seasoned. He's been out there. I haven't actually worked with either one of them. I think probably Marcel's upside is he can do more things. And, to say he's just a running quarterback, I think's a mistake because he could throw the ball extremely well. I'll be honest, so I think Arch is probably getting way too much blame and too much, scrutiny right now. And that's a tough thing for a kid to go through. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback, but, style-wise, I've had a little bit more success with the guys like Marcel, the guys that could move around. I don't think Arch is a sitting duck or a statue back in the pocket because, he can run the ball himself.
Yeah, he's not
But,
Peyton.
the really mobile guys that can throw really good, that's where I've hung my hat most of my career.
The Texas fans are going to be after you for that one. I'm just going
Yeah,
to
of
prepare
course.
you in advance. It's okay.
Right.
I mean, we enjoy it. It's fun. We love it.
Yeah.
Last one. You score a touchdown to go up by 7 in the fourth quarter. Do you go for 2 to make it a 2-possession game or kick the extra point?
You go up by 7?
Yeah, so you score a touchdown when you were up by 1. So you go up by 7, and it's before you kick the extra point or go for 2. You're up by 7.
Yeah, I'm going to
so
kick the extra point and be up by 8. That's me.
I'm going by 2. I'm going for 2 every time.
You're Lane Kiffin.
every
Oh, yeah.
time. Because
You're
every
Lane
time.
Kiffin.
Every
No,
time.
Coach, explain this to me. You would rather the other team, because if they're going to go down and score a touchdown and it's late in the game, they already have the momentum. They scored a touchdown. It's pretty likely, or at least a coin flip, maybe even more so on their side to score the 2-point conversion if they're already rolling. But if you're up 2 possessions, you end the game right there. I'd rather just be up 7, they kick the extra point, we go to overtime or whatever. That's my opinion.
Well, I will tell you, this conversation right here has happened in every coaching staff meeting in the country. We all have a chart. Everybody in the press box has this big chart. Excuse me, can't see my hands. And it basically says every scenario: +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, +6, -1, and it goes up to 30 something. It also has on the backside of that how much time's left in the game and how many timeouts do they have. So if you're trying to run the clock off, you've got, okay, it's 1:40. We can just kill it. We can kneel the ball. So everybody has that. The time one, there's not a big discussion about. It's pretty cut and dried. But the 2-point one, there's a bunch of numbers on there that people say, oh, I'm going to kick it here, or no, I'm going to go for 2 here. But you pretty much have these discussions beforehand. You even used to be at the coaches' meeting when I was with Coach Sherrill, 1985, and coaches back in those days. The last question you would ask, the staff would ask before the game would be win or tie. And I can still remember Joe Avizano was the guy that asked it here in 85, and Jackie'd say, I'd probably play to win. What he's saying is if we score late in the game, like 10 seconds to go,
Right.
are we going to kick it to tie him? Because there was no overtime back then. Or are we going to go for 2 to win it?
But that's almost the same scenario in my mind, because I would say going up 2 scores with 4 minutes left or 3 minutes left is almost equivalent to saying, win or tie. Because if you're giving up a touchdown, you're giving up. Okay.
Do I get my turn to ask a tough question for you guys?
Absolutely, sir.
Actually, yes, please do.
There was a huge football game a number of years ago. I'm 65, so you got to count way back. The head coach going into the game was like, if it comes down to kicking an extra point to tie or going for 2 to win, I'm going to kick the extra point and tie it. At the end of the game, he changed his mind and went for 2 and didn't make it.
R.C. Slocum.
No. I'll give you a hint. Cost him a national championship.
Oh, man.
What was it?
I'll give you another hint. Can y'all see? What do you got to do to see this?
Okay.
The U.
Is it Jimmy Johnson?
No.
Somebody.
You guys are so young.
There's a guy before Jimmy Johnson, 90s guy, the 80s guy, the 88
Who
guy.
was the guy that got him started?
Yeah.
Captain Kangaroo.
Let me.
Howard Schnellenberger.
Yeah.
But he won. The guy that went for 2 was Tom Osborne at Nebraska.
That sounds like a Nebraska thing to happen.
Yeah, they did. If they'd have kicked it, they were the number 1 team in the nation. If they'd have kicked it and tied, everybody said, well, they'd ended up being the national championship. But he went for the win instead.
I'll leave you with this then. Theory, or not really a theory, but like something I would present to you as an idea, coach, and like Shark Tank, right? So if as a fan now, right, you've got a different perspective on the game, this scenario comes up, I think it's beneficial for a team to have a consultant from as a fan from the other team. So like, let's say Texas A&M is playing against LSU. We have an LSU fan that we hire and we have him sit in a booth and we like strap him up. You can test his heart rate. You kind of know what he's feeling, what he's thinking. And then so the coaches are like, should we go for it here? Should we go for it here? And we go look at the LSU fan. Are they scared of us going for it? Or are they wanting us to go for it? That's how we should determine whether or not we go for it.
Didn't Michigan try something like that? Or was that just stealing signals? No, it's a good point.
Like signals, though. It's just emotion. It's like fan emotion. Like if I'm watching a game and I'm horrified of
Polygraphing.
the other team
It's a
going for it,
a
yeah, like,
polygraph of the other fan during the game.
yeah, or just someone playing Madden, because that's how I came up with it. I would go for 9. I'm always going for 9. Two scores at the end of a game. Totally worth it.
Do you two guys, do y'all like the new overtime rules or do you like the old ones?
I was at the LSU game that changed it all. Give me the old rules.
I think there's
You like the old way?
Oh yeah, old way.
Me
for sure.
too. I've been in 2 of them. In fact, last time I checked, I'm the only coach in the college football that has been in 2 7 overtime games.
What was the other one?
I was the head coach at North Texas, and we played Florida International. We played 7 overtimes. You know what the score was?
84.
28-25. It was 2 bad offenses and a couple of bad kickers.
Wow.
But we won.
So you won both. You're 2-0 and 7-0.
2-0.
That's awesome. Well, Coach, this has been fantastic. Sorry we held you this long, but this has been fun.
It's fun. I don't have anything else to do.
I gotcha. Well, we're rooting for you. I mean, I have tons of other questions for you. Hopefully we can do this again sometime or get you on a stream to watch a game with you. But thanks so much for coming on. I know our listeners are going to enjoy this.
Thank you
so much
for having me. Anytime y'all want to do something like this, love to do it and gig them, even though they're mad at me for a couple of my answers.
Yeah, they're going to be mad about everything. That's how we
that's
do
it.